On the menu tonight, barbecue as a Joe Burrow's go-to place to eat in Cincinnati. That's what his parents told us this week. The owners will join us to talk about what the Bengals' magical Super Bowl run has meant to the city. Also on the menu, tuna, as in why the mayor of New York City is forced to answer questions about his diet after he was seen eating tuna. You can't make this up. Angry vegans. We'll talk about that ahead. Great to have you with us. Welcome to the broadcast. We begin with something every parent has had to deal with at some point. A child care crisis comes up. So who do you get to watch the kids? One mom's decision seems like a sound one on the surface, but it could actually land her in jail. And that is the pulse of America. Melissa Henderson is a single mother of 5. She lives in Blairsville, Georgia. Back in May of 2020, COVID shut down her daycare center. She had to go to work, so she left her 4 younger children in the care of her 14-year-old daughter, Lindley. What happened next got her charged with criminal reckless conduct. Lindley was online in virtual school, and her 4-year-old brother, Thaddeus, slipped away and went to a friend's house down the street. 10 or 15 minutes later, Lindley noticed her brother was missing and tracked him down at the neighbor's. Crisis averted, right? A good outcome. Not so fast. The friend's mom called police. Henderson was taken into custody, and the legal battle has been going on now for nearly 2 years. The maximum penalty is a year in prison and a $1,000 fine. But if Henderson goes to jail, where would the kids go then? We should point out the Georgia Public Health website says this under child supervision guidelines, quote, children 13 years and older may be left alone and may perform the role of babysitter as authorized by the parent for up to 12 hours. Lindley, as we said, was 14 that day. Joining us now, the mother's attorney, David DeLugas. David, it's great to have you. Help me understand this. She left her kids with a capable 14-year-old. What are we missing here?
You're not missing anything. What you're missing is that those people who have authority, in this case, the deputy sheriff of that county, decided that it was reckless conduct. There's more difficulty with that than meets the eye because in 1997, the Georgia Supreme Court said that this statute is unconstitutional because it is vague. It doesn't tell parents you can't do this. And more importantly, and to your point, sheriffs and other law enforcement have too much discretion to decide what's reckless and what's not. So it was declared unconstitutional some 20 years earlier.
Right. I'm wondering if this is a crime, David. I think a lot of us would have done time on this. But 2 years later, how has this not been resolved?
Well, it took a year for the district attorney's office to decide to prosecute it, and they decided that in April of 2021. I immediately filed a motion to quash, a fancy legal way of saying, let's kick it out, Judge. And we had a hearing on July 1. The judge wanted us to submit written briefs thereafter. We did that, and it's still pending. So it's hanging over this family, and it wears on the mom, and even more so, I think, Lindley, because she knows she's responsible for what happened, although, again, nothing should have happened to her mom.
So what did she do wrong, David? I mean, this is what I'm struggling with here. As we said on the way in here in Georgia, 13 and older may be left alone. What did she do wrong?
I cited that to the judge. In fact, before she was arrested, I sent by email a PDF of that Georgia Supreme Court opinion to the sheriff, to the district attorney's office, and to the magistrate court judge and said, hey, hold on, take a breath. They didn't bother. They arrested her anyway. So the answer is the mother did nothing wrong. In fact, the distinguishing point here is that the mother made a reasonable decision to leave her children in the care of the 14-year-old daughter. People do it every day, and it's fine. If while you're in the care of a child, you do something criminally negligent and the child is hurt, you might have some culpability, some criminal responsibility. But again, the decision she made was leave, 14-year-old in charge, my children should be fine, it happens. She did nothing wrong.
I noticed in your motion, David, that you filed recently that you did bring up what happened with the neighbor, and that's something that caught my eye with this story as well. Now, normally, I think if a neighbor sees the neighbor kid, they'd call mom and say, hey, what's up? Do you need help or whatever? But she called police, not to judge the neighbor, but back in our day, this would have been handled much differently, and it would have been over in 5 or 10 minutes, right?
Well, first of all, you're apparently accusing me of being old. So back in the day,
right.
Yes, in fact, today, parents should be doing this. The way I view it and frame it is this. We can never get rid of neighbors and strangers and people who feel as though they're obligated to call the police. And granted, she called the non-emergency number, but she called the police. Here's the problem. Police shouldn't respond to everybody just because they call. People call in because their pizza wasn't delivered on time, and we should respond to somebody calling in about a child instead of sending police to arrest, say, well, is the child well? Is the child hurt? Do we need to send an EMT? If no, go through a protocol, a triage, as I call it, and determine, is there a reason for us to send our finite government resources out to this house?
How do you think this is resolved in the end, David?
Well, I still remain optimistic that the trial judge is going to grant the motion and that will end this case. And if not, then I am going to appeal his decision not to grant it to the Georgia Supreme Court and let them wrestle with what's the difference in the facts here versus the facts in the 1997 case. And I might point out, in 1997, the mother was charged with the exact same crime, same statute. In that case, her 11-year-old cared for a 5-year-old, and for reasons that are not known, the 5-year-old was killed. Killed. So even then, the Supreme Court of Georgia said, tragic though it may be, it's still not a crime for a mom to entrust a teenager with the care of a younger child. So the statute was declared unconstitutional, and the charges were removed from that mom back in 97. So that's what makes this thing so puzzling now.
We'll see where it goes. We should point out, too, that we asked Melissa to join us, but she was at work. But I do understand she'll be on Ashley Banfield's program tonight, and
right.
We do appreciate your time tonight. David DeLugas, the attorney for Melissa, thanks again. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
An anti-vaccine protest involving Canadian truckers is now directly impacting the U.S. supply chain. Protesters have blocked the Ambassador Bridge linking Detroit to Windsor, Ontario, effectively shutting down a quarter of U.S.-Canada trade. Among the goods impacted, auto parts, beef, fruits, and vegetables. Worth noting here, the protests began in Ottawa, Canada, over COVID-19 vaccine mandates. NewsNation's Rudabeh Shabazi is live for us on the ground in Ottawa. She joins us now. Rudabeh, I know you've learned a lot more about the impact this is all having, especially on the U.S. side.
Yeah, Joe, I just want you to take a look so that you get an idea of what it looks like over there. If we can pan off and show some of the trucks, just so you see what the bridge looks like. Also, this is $13.5 million worth of trade every single day. That's the impact on the U.S. and the Canada side. That's according to the president of the Chamber of Commerce in Windsor on the Canada side. And that all has a trickle-down effect. That means they're losing business, they're losing staff, they're losing a lot of money. Also, the GM plant on the Michigan side today canceled its second shift because of that disruption on the bridge. So there is, of course, an economic impact. It usually takes a couple weeks to feel that, according to the experts we've talked to.
Rudabeh, some of your video that I've seen makes it appear that this may be going on for a while. I know some of these truckers have removed the tires from their rigs, and others I saw hauling out barbecue pits. It seems like they are dug in on this. I know you said yesterday that it's being called an occupation, and I know locals are getting frustrated. It feels like this has to come to a boiling point at some point. Does there appear there's any resolution in sight?
No, and actually, I think I can show you a couple examples of those things. I saw them up here earlier. If we can get through the crowd here, excuse me. There are trucks here with no tires. It's basically like people have set up camp in some instances, and they plan to stay here for quite a while. There are barbecue pits. It smells of smoke and barbecue actually up here. People are bringing in and feeding them. And these truckers, from everyone we've talked to, they have no intention of leaving anytime soon. They want all of their demands met. Of course, the government is not negotiating with them. They want Justin Trudeau to resign. And neighbors are concerned. People are concerned here in Ottawa that it's going to come to an end that's not going to be peaceful because there aren't enough police to end this. There aren't enough tow trucks to end this. And that might mean they have to bring in the military. And there is fear that it could get messy, Joe.
Wow. All right. A great update, Ruta Bay. Thank you very much. Live for us tonight in Ottawa. Momentum gaining on Capitol Hill for a new bill that would ban lawmakers from buying and selling stocks. The legislation comes after several prominent lawmakers have been accused of insider trading. And according to Business Insider, at least 55 lawmakers failed to properly report their financial trades last year alone. Joining us now, Representative Tom Reed, representing New York State's 23rd District. Good to see you again, Congressman. We're glad to have you back on the broadcast. You've been pushing this actually for years. I know it's interesting to me that as divided as Congress and the country is, this is something that seems to be getting bipartisan support, but not all of it, because there are lawmakers who are staunchly opposed to what this is all about.
That is true, but I have supported this for years, and making sure that members of Congress are held to a higher degree when it comes to insider trading type of activities, I think is only sound good policy. And when Speaker Pelosi obviously spoke truth that she believed that this was okay, I think the Speaker Pelosi is just wrong on it. And we're going to continue to work on this, and I can tell you, I'm optimistic this is going to get signed into law because the public's demanding it.
Well, the question is where it ends up, Congressman, because I know the Senate's working on another version of this, and the question we've asked is, where do you draw the line? Do you include family members? Do you include staff members? What about siblings or parents? How wide do you cast the net on this?
That's right. That's why, Joe, a simple ban is not going to be realistic and feasible because you can outright ban it, but then you have all those complicating factors. What did you own before you came to Congress? What did you own during Congress? And I think the key of the reform that we can support and get bipartisan support for is more transparency, more disclosures. You saw the 55 members that got tripped up last year alone. That is causing behavior to change by other members, and that's a good thing. And I think that's where you're going to see is more transparency, drawing the line for looking for nefarious actions where people are truly using that insider information for their own personal gain and making sure that's banned. This
would include just individual stocks, though, right, Congressman? It wouldn't be funds. Would you still be allowed to buy funds? Is that the idea, to try to protect some of this?
That's generally kind of where the line has been historically drawn when we did the Stock Act and things like that, because when you're making investments in a retirement fund, for example, you're not making individual decisions on individual stocks. So, that seems to be a clear line of distinction where people recognize that type of investment. We're not talking about that. What we're talking about is individual transactions that need higher transparency and immediate disclosure so that if you are doing something wrong, you get held to account by the American voter.
But isn't that kind of what you're supposed to do now?
It is, but obviously people are not. They're getting caught up in it. And also, you've got some technicalities in the existing law that can be exploited, and those need to be closed.
The other issue is blind trusts, right? Those are also in the crosshairs because that's part of what the system is now, is that when you come in, you're supposed to, I guess, put whatever you have into a blind trust. What would happen with that?
Yeah, that is something that it continues to be a thorny issue because those blind trusts are not exactly the same in the House as they are in the Senate. Certain industries can take advantage of it if you're in that practice or if you're in that industry, as opposed to being a fiduciary like a lawyer or a doctor or something of that nature. Mm-hmm. So that's going to have to be wrestled with. But blind trust is something. It's not the panacea. It's not the cure-all for all this problem. It's going to take more effort in order to get at the nefarious actors.
Yeah, and more time, it sounds like, and a lot of wrinkles still needing to be ironed out. We appreciate the update. Congressman Tom Reed, again, thanks for your time.
Thanks, Joe. Really appreciate it.
31.5 million Americans will bet on the Super Bowl, and you can put money on pretty much anything. Up next, the wacky bets for the non-football fans, how you can make money on everything except the action on the field. That's ahead. Plus, the Cincinnati barbecue, that is a city staple and one that Joe Burrow's parents say he loves. The owners are next on what the Super Bowl run has meant to that city. Back with that and more. And as we head to break, a quick reminder, you can follow us on social media at Joe Donlon TV. We are back. Super Bowl Sunday, just 4 days away. And as we mentioned, a record number of Americans set to bet on the big game. More than 31 million, in fact, set to wager an estimated $8 billion on Super Bowl 46 between the Cincinnati Bengals and LA Rams. That figure includes office pools and Super Bowl squares as well. But what are some of the top prop bets? You know, the fun stuff like will the coin flip go heads or tails? There's a lot available. For that, we're joined now by NewsNation reporter Paul Gerke. You normally see him in the morning. Paul, it's good to see you on the dark side here. Tell us a little bit more about the wagers here. We know the Rams are, 4-point favorites. Let's talk about these prop bets.
Yeah, hey there, Joe. It's weird being out here in the dark, but it's nighttime instead of the mornings. New York City, very different at this hour. Yeah, let's talk about some prop bets. So I'm a sports fan, so I love the ones related to the game itself. Like, will an offensive lineman catch a touchdown pass? That's a plus 2,000 bet, so wager 10 to win $200. Another one I really like is, will all the teams use all of their timeouts? Like timeout bets. That's so weird. But I'm betting that you want to hear more about the novelty props. That's what they're called in the mobile sports gaming sections. So you can bet on the Gatorade bath color. You can bet on the national anthem, and not just the length of it. The average, by the way, 95 seconds is what the over-under is set at. The average of modern anthems, 91 to 2020, is 156. So close, but I would take the under on that. What Mickey Guyton, the national anthem singer, will be wearing. You can bet on anything, Joe.
Who will perform first during the halftime show? I'm surprised that's a prop bet. Somebody's got to know that.
You know, some of these bets, people have inside knowledge, right? And I think that the sports books were going to flag that if they see somebody putting a big wager on it.
I would imagine.
I don't think Mickey Guyton herself can place a wager on her own national anthem.
So, who you got, Paul? What are you taking?
Yeah, so I've been keeping a close eye on this. The line in this game has sort of oscillated between 4.5 and 3.5 points, but a ton of public money is coming in on the underdog Bengals.
Yeah.
That makes me like the LA Rams and the Rams to cover that 4-point spread if you can still get it at 4. I like to side with the casinos in big games like this. They're not charities, Joe. There's a reason they're in business.
Right.
I think they're going to make money on Sunday, and I think a lot of it's going to be people betting on the Bengals. I also really like Matt Stafford. I'm a lifelong Lions fan. I watch him play a lot of big games. One odd bet I'd like you guys to keep an eye on is Matt Stafford scoring a touchdown that's not passing, as in a rushing touchdown. He's not a guy who runs a lot. I think it's a plus 800 line on most sports books right now. But he scored a rushing touchdown in 2 of his last 3 games, and he likes to take off in big games.
Well, that's the fun thing about the spread on some of these bets. I mean, like you said, you can put $10 on it and actually hit if it happens.
Yeah, like, for example, one of the novelty props I saw is, will there be an octopus?
Right.
And I was like, what does that mean? Like an octopus there, like in the stands,
right.
Someone's waving an
like
octopus?
Like a Detroit hockey game.
An octopus is when a player... Right, yeah. But no, it's actually not an octopus,
right.
Which I learned after I bet $10 on the octopus. I was going to be sitting there rooting for an 8-legged friend. But the octopus in the NFL is when a player scores a touchdown and then scores the ensuing 2-point conversion. So 8 points, octopus legs, makes sense. So I'm rooting for that on Sunday now, too.
All right. NewsNation's Paul Gerke. Again, thanks for the time. It's good to see you.
Likewise, man. Thanks for having me.
Yep. Quarterback of the Bengals, dubbed on social media Joe Cool. In just his 2nd NFL season, the Cincinnati Bengals quarterback has become a hero in his home state of Ohio. Monday, I talked to Burrow's parents about some of his favorite places to eat in Cincinnati. Here's some of that.
That's a good question. He doesn't actually eat out with us very much, but I would say probably Montgomery Inn out of all those things.
All right, joining us now, the owner and proprietor of the Montgomery Inn in Cincinnati, Ohio, Dean Gregory. Dean, it's great to have you. Man, you talk about good publicity. I understand you have the Joe Burrow special. What is that?
The Joe Burrow special is a slab of ribs, our homemade Saratoga chips, coleslaw, and a Ted's Red, our house beer.
Oh, man. That's
like dying and going to heaven, Joe.
Yeah, it sounds like it. So what about these T-shirts that I saw? You've had these made up, is that right? Because there's a nice connection between the T-shirts and your restaurant.
We have a logo. My mother and father started our business in 1951. My father was a big-time cigar smoker. Our logo has my father's profile with a big cigar. And a local company here, Cincy Shirts, copied that logo and put Smokin' Joe with Joe smoking a cigar. So we ship our product all around the country, a company called Cincy Favorites. And if you order on Cincy Favorites right now, you get a free Smokin' Joe T-shirt.
Wow.
The response has been tremendous.
So what are you doing Sunday, Dean? I'm sure you're torn. You don't want to work, but you kind of have to, right, during the game?
Well, we're open for carry-out only between noon and 6, and we're just about at capacity right now with what we can produce. Joe, we never stay open on Super Bowl Sunday. It's the slowest night of the year in the restaurant business. So we always shut down at 6 o'clock so our staff can go home and watch the Super Bowl.
Especially this year. So, Dean, give us an idea of
Absolutely.
what it's like to be in the city right there and what it's meant, this run, what it's meant to businesses.
You know what? The feeling is incredible. This is like, you're too young to remember, but this is like the Big Red Machine back in 75 and
Are you
76.
kidding? Cincinnati, the Reds, absolutely. I'm a lot older than I might look.
Everybody's on the same, it's unified our city. Everybody's on the same page. We have one goal, win the Super Bowl, whatever. And everybody is just so excited right now and so proud of our Cincinnati Bengals. It's been amazing.
Well, that's the other funny thing. We were talking about this the other day. I think for fans who don't have a team in the game, they might tend to root for the underdog because the big city, you know, they have the big city fans. I think it's interesting that so many people are putting money on the Bengals to win outright.
It's been amazing. I thought that spread opened at 6 o'clock, and I was just listening to your program a couple minutes ago, and the spread's down to, the spread was at 6, it's down to 4 now, whatever. So evidently there's heavy action on the Bengals.
I heard too, Dean, that the head coach has started this tradition now where he goes to local bars after wins and gives out game balls.
That is probably the neatest thing that he's done, whatever. He's just, he drives around and look, you know, I think he started his first 2 or 3 game balls. He would pass bars on his way home and see a crowd in there. There were sports bars, whatever, and decided to drop in and, you know, and give a autographed game ball, whichever. We've not received one yet. I'm hoping we'll see Coach Taylor at some point, but I thought, what a great way to build a rapport with the city. That is just so cool.
Or maybe you'll see Joe Burrow with a cigar and a big plate of ribs as well. I think, you know, part of the other...
We'd love to see Joe.
Go ahead.
You go ahead. I know we were so excited to see his parents on the show last night and talking about how much Joe Burrow loves Montgomery Inn ribs. I think he's been in the restaurant one time. A couple of my staff think that they saw him in a late afternoon, whatever. We always hope that he picked up Montgomery Inn ribs for carryout. And when we heard his parents last night, we knew that was a real deal, whatever. So we are so proud that Joe loves Montgomery Inn.
I'm sure you are. I mean, part of what makes this so special is what Joe has done, and also the fact that it's been so long since the Bengals have been in this game.
Oh, absolutely, for sure. There's just a totally different environment on that football team. They're like one big family, whatever, and they all pull for each other. It's just been amazing to watch them this year.
Well, listen, Dean Gregory, next time we're in Cincinnati, we'll definitely be stopping at the Montgomery Inn for some ribs. I hear the sauce is amazing as well.
It is the absolute best. I'm going to get your address and send you some, okay?
Deal. All right.
God bless you.
Dean, thank you. Good luck on Sunday.
Thank you so much. Take care, Joe.
You bet.
Bye-bye now.
Anti-police sentiment in the news. Why conservative media outlets have some choice words for the nation's law enforcement. That's tonight on Dan Abrams Live, 8 Eastern, 7 Central. Well, from barbecue, we're going to shift to tuna ahead. Believe it or not, the mayor of New York is facing questions after being spotted eating tuna. What's the big deal about that? Why is it an issue? And you'll hear the mayor's angry response to the question ahead. Plus, we've shown you the video before, a shootout in Chicago between police and accused carjackers. Looks a bit like urban warfare. We're going to talk with an Iraq War vet who wants to join the Chicago police force. Even after seeing this, he'll join us ahead. Well, what a difference a week can make from mask mandates. Just this week, New York, New Jersey, California, Oregon, Illinois, Delaware, Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island have all announced they will lift some restrictions on indoor mask mandates. 8 of those 9 states have Democrats for governor. New York will lift indoor mask mandates beginning tomorrow, but will keep those mandates in schools at least for a few more weeks. That's according to Governor Kathy Hochul. Meanwhile, top teachers union president Randy Weingarten said today she has begun talking about, quote, off-ramps for masks in schools. So a lot of developments. The demasking comes just weeks after the White House said it would distribute 400 million N95 masks to Americans free of charge beginning this month. But the masks aren't actually free. They're paid for with taxpayer dollars, and those N95 masks approved by the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health cost about $2 a pop. Doing some back-of-the-napkin math, as we like to do around here. 400 million masks, $2 each, 800 million. And remember, the government had 750 million masks in the stockpile, so that comes out to $1.5 billion. With the mask mandates beginning to phase out, it certainly raises the question of the late timing and just how many of those N95s will now be used. We're going to shift now to a tragic story out of Chicago. 2 teenagers shot and killed in the span of just 2 hours on Tuesday. One was 15, the other 16. Just this weekend alone, 22 people were shot in Chicago. 3 of them died. The violence, certainly, as we know, seems to be a trend. 2021 saw a record number of shootings in the city, and according to the Chicago Police Department, shooting incidents this year up 33% from this time in 2020. Times like these, you wonder, why would someone want to be a cop? We've asked so many times in a city facing so much violence, especially. Joining me now, someone who wants to do just that. Someone we actually, our producer and I had a beer with watching football in downtown Chicago a little while. Great to talk with you and find out what you're up to. And that's why we decided to have you on. Before we start, though, let's show you this video of the carjacking suspects who got into a shootout with Chicago police after they had used a license plate reader to track this car. I don't know, watching this, Scotty, and Scotty Rosenmutter is his name, who would watch this and say, yeah, I'm all in? Why do you want to do it?
I want to do it because, I'm an Army veteran, and I regret getting out of the military. And, so we're down a lot of officers. A lot of things are different nowadays with the pandemic, a lot of new laws in place. None of that, I don't fear any of that. But I've always felt that God put me here to serve my city and my country, and I need to get back to doing that. And CPD needs me.
I had a feeling you were going to say that because you told us when we met a few Sundays ago. But it did bring to mind, because since we met, the New York police officer who was shot and killed in the line of duty, he said the same thing. Jason Rivera, he wanted to serve, and his brother tried to talk him out of it. I'm assuming we're way past that.
Yeah.
You're in.
Yes. And by the way, Joe, I had a hard liquor drink, not a beer, because I'm not a beer guy.
Okay.
When I was in Germany, we go to beer fest. I would always bring a bottle of liquor with me. So.
Okay.
But anyways, the last 3.5 years, I've been a licensed security contractor, and I feel like I'm meant to do a lot more. And I actually was supposed to take the exam this morning. I love Apple, but my Apple tablet wasn't working well with me, and so I rescheduled my exam for next Wednesday, but I'm planning on acing it and looking forward to the academy.
Do you know what the numbers look like coming in? Because we looked up, and we know last year it appeared the city of Chicago was on pace with resignations and retirements to lose 1,000 officers. How many are in your class? Do you know?
Oh, I have no idea, because I got to pass the exam first,
right? And
then then I got to get an academy date, and I'll find out at a later point. I do know at the end of last year, because I live in 19th District, and I've done a lot of work in 19th District, that a lot of CPD officers told me that right around like 130 or 140 officers approximately have left the force towards the end of last year.
What goes into the test? Do you know, Scotty? What will you be asked?
So it's 180 minutes. There's different sections. I did take the Cook County Sheriff test. There's actually two exams with that. CPD is like those two in one. So there's reading comprehension, there's facial recognition, some of the things for me to try and explain. I don't know the correct verbiage, but like one of the things that like you need to get an officer to an intersection as fast as possible, like the fastest route. And other things.
When, if this all works out, assuming you pass, might you be in uniform on the streets of Chicago?
I've been told that if I pass, I would be going to the academy within 4 to 6 months.
And you can't wait?
Yeah, I can't wait. I've always, I loved everything I did in the military. I'm a prior airborne paratrooper and 88 Mike, which is motor vehicle operator, drive different types of vehicles, transport different things. But I, for a long time and growing up, I've always been really thoughtful of trying to protect people, and so.
Well, we wish you the best. Good luck on the exam. It's great to see you, and we'll see you in uniform on the streets.
All right,
Scotty,
awesome.
It's good to see you.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thanks for the time. We have a story now out of Virginia that caught our attention. State Delegate A.C. Cordoza the only black Republican in the state legislature, says he's been blocked from joining the legislature's Black Caucus. Cardoza says he had requested membership to the caucus, but made it clear he did not support their liberal policies. He says it's important to have different black voices at the table to address challenges in our community. And in response, Virginia Lieutenant Governor Winsome Sears suggested starting a new caucus and had some suggested names as well, including the You're Not Black Enough Caucus. Joining me now for more on this discussion, activist and founder of King Consulting, Keisha King, and political and social impact strategist Crystal Knight. Keisha, let's start with you. When I first heard about this, I said, well, wait a minute. It isn't because he isn't black enough. It's that he isn't liberal enough. Isn't that the issue?
That is exactly the issue. You know, you would think that we hear this term that black folks are not a monolith, but yet when we, veer away from the Democrat Party, suddenly our black voices aren't what they want to hear. So it's absolutely that he's black enough, he's just not liberal enough. And we're seeing that he's not the only one. Congressman Byron Donalds was met with the same thing with the Congressional Black Caucus. So we've seen this time and time again. They only want you to have a certain voice. It is not what you look like, it's what rhetoric you will repeat.
Crystal, let's go with what the Lieutenant Governor said there then, because I got a kick out of it. Some of them were pretty funny. I'm trying to think. One of them is the I can't believe they didn't accept me caucus, or the let's do away with caucuses caucus. What do we call this? I mean, why not just then call it maybe the Democratic Black Caucus or something like that?
Well, absolutely. That's what they should do, because there's no reason that you should not accept a black conservative into the Black Caucus. It goes against the foundation of what they believe in, which is making sure that every black legislative member feels welcomed into the body. And so to have someone, not be accepted for unknown reasons, really, there's no precedent for it. And I think that the party really should take a look at that, and the caucus should take a look at it.
The other thing, Keisha, that I thought of right away this morning was that I don't know, but I can't imagine there are any Democrats in the Freedom Caucus, but it isn't because they don't believe in freedom.
Right. It is sad that we're even having to have this type of conversation. What happened to the unity that Joe Biden was supposed to bring? I mean, he's their leader, so clearly they should be on message with their leader with unity, right? That's what I would think. But this is not unity. This is more divisiveness. I wish this kind of thing would stop, because not every black person thinks the same. Shocker. We have different ideas. We have different political leanings. And the best way for this all to be stopped is to allow some other voices into these caucuses. Or maybe, like Lieutenant Governor said, let's get rid of the caucuses of the caucuses.
The one I did like was the problem solvers, but that's bipartisan. Okay, you mentioned President Biden. We should point out this is in Virginia, but we did want to bring up something the president said during the campaign that got a lot of attention. Let's listen and we'll talk on the other side. So you remember this, I'm sure. And the takeaway from this here is the issue is that black doesn't equal liberal.
Right, and it also doesn't equal Democratic. I mean, that's the thing that was so disheartening about this interview with Charlemagne the God, is that the president was stating that if you don't vote for me, you're not black, and that's just not true. I mean, even as a Democrat, I also understand not every single black person, not every single black Democrat believes the same, thinks the same, and has the same policies in mind when we're thinking about a president legislating over our union.
All right, Crystal Knight and Keisha King, it's great to have you both on this. It's good to see you. Take care. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, Eric Adams has been mayor of New York a little more than a month and is now facing his first full-blown controversy over tuna fish. How this all started and why the mayor is so angry about it.
Plant-based centered life. And I'm not going down this rabbit hole of what do you eat?
Now, a fishtail for you. New York City Mayor Eric Adams is embroiled in his first major scandal in the Big Apple. Adams, a former cop, Brooklyn Borough president, and a vegan. At least that's what he says. But is he? Adams recently spotted in a Manhattan restaurant eating fish. That's against the rules for vegans, of course. And while it's unclear whether the entree was fried or grilled, the New York press certainly grilled him on it.
I did a plant-based centered life. And I'm not going down this rabbit hole of what do you eat? That is my question to those who are following me around in restaurants, wondering what I'm ordering. Listen, I'm not doing that. That's noise to me. I got to get New Yorkers to eat a plant-based scented life.
It's always great to have comedian Ben Glebe with us. Ben, I don't know. I guess to me it seems like he's either angry or hangry.
This is true. He might need a little more fish and then eat that fish under the table. I'm not sure exactly the move, but I do know that when you maybe be thinking a little more clearly if there was a little more protein running through his system. I don't know.
Well, I don't know. Or maybe he needs a Snickers. That's the other possibility. I guess.
Yeah, but then he'd end up being Danny DeVito, and nobody needs that.
So my question on the way out of seeing all of this, because I remember your bit from the restaurant with the mask, which was hilarious, but why can't the man just eat?
This is a good question. You can eat whatever you want, of course, but it's just weird to pretend you're a vegan when you're not. And
Is it?
I say that as a vegan who eats steak regularly. And I just feel as though people should embrace us, but they don't. And for some reason, they react strangely to me trying to hang out at vegan parties with a bunch of people listless on the couch and not a lot of dancing going on. They're like, why are you here? And I'm trying to get the dancing going. I got a lot of energy in my system because I'm a meat-based vegan. And, you know, I think what somebody should do, honestly, is ask the mayor's brother about this. I feel like he probably could clear things up.
This reminds me of an old Jim Gaffigan joke where he said, I'm a vegetarian, but not a strict vegetarian. I still eat chicken and fish. I don't know, though. The thing about the mayor, though, is he's in great shape. I mean, it seems like it's odd to vegan shame a guy who's, I don't know how old he is, 65, and whatever he's eating is working.
That's true, but before when he ate meat, he had a full head of hair, so let's keep that in mind. He had a full head of hair. And look, I think it is definitely what he's promoting is a very good idea. I myself try to eat more plant-based in my life. People that think it's intimidating, I tell them, you don't have to worry too much about it. It's just plant-based. The base can be plants. You can put meat on top of it. That's a start. You can start getting your way towards a more of a plant-centered diet. And it obviously, we all know it's better for us. We all know it's better for the planet. It's definitely better for the animals. They prefer it. They strongly prefer
not getting eaten. You know, it's funny that, Ben, we were talking about this in our production meeting, and I don't know what it is about vegans who they love to brag about what they eat more so than most people. And I have to admit, I can't really talk here because I did cut out red meat a couple of years ago, or I certainly cut way back on it. I lost 25 pounds, and I was telling everybody about my new plant-based meal approach. You know, I couldn't help it.
I hear you. It does feel good because I was vegan once when I had found a tumor that was benign, thank God, and I had to have it removed with a surgery, but I gave myself a year to try to make it go away through organic means, which did not work. But I did lose a lot of weight while trying to be vegan, and it felt good. There were a couple times I almost passed out hanging with my friends, and they did think less of me. But it is, eventually you figure out you get supplemented with nuts and with other proteins, with beans and things like that, and bananas, and all of a sudden you can figure out how to get the energy that you need while still being healthier. And it certainly can extend your life. We know that for sure. Bill Clinton certainly has benefited strongly from that. But the mayor also compared eating cheese to being addicted to heroin. And I don't feel as though those are exactly comparable.
A stretch. Although,
he said if you put a man in a room by himself who's on heroin and deprive him of that, and a man in a room who's addicted to cheese and deprive him of that, you won't be able to tell the difference. I guarantee you that's incorrect.
Yeah.
I guarantee you I could tell the difference. One of the guys is scratching, and he looks weird, and he's got a lot of tattoos, and the other one is on heroin.
Yeah, provolone is the methadone of cheeses. I guess we should probably say
that's correct.
Right. Hey, before we let you go,
leave Prov alone.
That's right. Have you heard about this new McDonald's offering the Land, Air, and Sea Burger? I guess it includes a hamburger, the McChicken, and the filet of fish. And I think you have to build it yourself. There it is.
Yes, it is a large burger. It involves all of the meats, and they are doing a special Happy Meal promotion now that as soon as you eat it, the prize is they throw in a free funeral because you will be dead shortly thereafter.
Yeah,
I just can't get that picture out of my head.
Yeah.
Right before a show.
It's on the menu, though. Speaking of what's on the menu, the Olympic menu finally includes a gold medal. What took us so long?
A gold medal by an American. She's just not competing for the American team. We're talking about Elaine Gu, who was born in the United States to an American parent, learned to ski here, got her education here, but she decided to compete for China when she figured out how much she could make in endorsements in the Chinese market. And now there are a lot of calls for her to either have to give up her American citizenship
Does she have dual citizenship?
Well, that's a big question because China does not allow dual citizenship. One of the things we've been looking into is how this really worked and what the Chinese are doing for the almighty yuan or dollar, as it were.
Got to make hay while the sun shines.
Yeah, go for gold. More ways than one.
Leland, thanks. Team USA finally earned the first gold medal of the games, as we mentioned, thanks to a 5-time Olympian. And it wasn't Shaun White. More on that on the other side. Here's something even Jolene would smile about. Dollywood, the popular Tennessee amusement park named after country icon Dolly Parton, will pay for all of its employees to go to college. The parent company of Dollywood announced it'll cover 100% of employees' tuition, fees, and books for employees who want to further their education. The initiative, expected to launch later this year, it'll pay for the educational costs for all 11,000 seasonal, part-time, and full-time employees across the company's 25 locations. The company will also provide partial funding for 150 other programs in fields including hospitality, engineering, human resources, and art design. Tonight's American Snapshot goes to a 5-time Olympian who has won America's first gold medal of the year. Connecticut native Lindsay Jacobellis earned her gold medal in snowboard cross in Beijing late last night. Before this, she was known for winning silver in the 2006 games. You may remember this. She had a huge lead, but then tweaked her board as she came over the last crest and fell. Now the 36-year-old Olympian is the oldest U.S. woman to win a gold medal. Certainly great to see. Congratulations to her. Lindsay gets our American Snapshot tonight. That is our time. Thanks for joining us. On Balance with Leland Vittert is next. Have a great night. Thank you for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.